What is going on, everyone? It's your boy Kuhl. Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be looking at how to make dark piano melodies like Pooh Shiesty and Lil Durk. I'm going to give a little update on the channel and what I've been doing before I jump into the video, because I've been MIA for a little bit. And if you're just here for the tutorial, that's all good. I'm going to put a stamp on the screen right now. You can skip to, and I'll put one of those like card things in the description so you can just click on the timestamp and skip to it. So yeah, just skip there if you want to start the tutorial. But for the rest of you guys, I'm gonna tell you where I've been for the past like month and a half. I've really just been sort of like working on myself, working on becoming a better musician. And also I moved into college, so like the combination of those two things didn't really allow me time to upload. Also the fact that I moved into college is why I don't have a camera anymore. We'll work on that, try to get a camera in. So regarding the future of the channel, I'm sort of going to be changing the upload schedule a little bit. I'm going to be uploading tutorials every other week, and in between those every other weeks, I'm going to be uploading a kit, like a loop kit. The next loop kit is coming next Friday. It's going to be an R&B drill kit. It's going to have some really cool stuff, some guitar stuff, some like vibey keys, piano, Rhodes, synth, all sorts of stuff like that. And it's going to be really great. So if you want to see more kits, more stuff like that, hit the sub button right now. Only 7% of you guys are subscribed, so go down, hit that subscribe button, and let's get that number up. Alright, so starting with the tutorial, first things first, we're going to take a look at the Back in Blood melody. When it comes to Pooh Shiesty and Lil Durk, like piano type beats, this is the biggest one that has gone mainstream. It was huge, like 100, 200 million views now, and it came out this year. Like, that's insane. So I got the almost exact melody here. I'm not sure about the velocity, but I got the exact preset from Keyscape, which is the softest preset here. It's a cool sound. I'm just gonna play it before we analyze it. I want to analyze it so we can get some ideas for our melodies. Alright, so I think there's a few takeaway things that we can take away from this melody, and I'm going to list them on the screen as I talk about them. So the first things first is the bass note changes in the bottom here. The bass note's the lowest note in here, so they're deep, they sound like a bass. And these are the things changing, while your top melody is just repeating the same thing. It's the same 2-bar loop for the whole 8 bars here. And just an FYI, this is just a segment of the melody for Back in Blood. There are segments where he changes up the bass notes. The producer, who's YC, shout out YC, made a really dope beat. And if you look at the top melody here, it just follows the A flat minor key or G sharp, same thing. And how you can tell that, if you're not super familiar with your scales, you come down, you can get a stamp, and you want to go for your minor natural scale, because that's your A minor scale. It has like fancy names for whatever reason, because some guy's trying to sound smart. But basically, if you look, the notes in red are the notes that are in A flat G sharp minor. And if you look at the Back in Blood melody, it just follows it. It just walks up the scale, turns around when you reach to the 6th note up here, and then goes back down until it repeats. So very sort of basic thing. It's following a minor scale. So I think the takeaway here is that we got to be working in a minor key, because a minor key is going to be giving us our dark sound. And I think the final takeaway is that this melody is very simple. What I think the genius of it is, because it gets stuck in people's heads, like people know it. It's not some like super complex thing. It's very simple, so let's not overcomplicate our melodies. So let's make a Pooh Shiesty Lil Durk piano melody of our own. First thing we want to look at is the BPM. Normally, like Pooh Shiesty Lil Durk type beats, they're from like 135 to 160 BPM, maybe 170 for some faster ones, but mainly in that 135, 160 BPM, and I'm going to stay at the BPM we had for Back in Blood. It's 147. It's the same BPM as that song. Alright, the next thing that I like to do when I'm making melodies is I like to pick a key that I'm in. If you're not super familiar with your keys, what you can do is you come over to a thing that you're not using, like the snare. Like, I'm not going to be using the default snare from FL. So what you want to do is you go in here and you're going to go grab that stamp that we had earlier, and you can set that on a note. The bottom note is the root note, and that's going to be what key you're in. So if I move up to C, this is C minor. If I move up to E, it's E minor. So just remember the bottom note of that stamp is what key you're going to be in. I'm feeling, I think, maybe F minor today, so I'm just going to set it up at F minor. And you'll notice what I did is I turned the velocity all the way down. That way, when I go back over to keyscape, the second keyscape is going to come in handy later, just stay tuned. But I go back over to keyscape and I play the melody that you don't hear anything, or I play the pattern, you don't hear anything. So that way, I can layer my piano notes in there, and I can use these like ghost notes is what people call them as a guide for making my own melody. So the first thing I like to do is I like to figure out sort of like my bass notes, and those can be stenciled in really easily. So I'm gonna go down to like down here, F2, and I'm gonna start with F because we're in F minor. And some very common progressions for Pooh Shiesty type beats are 1, 4, 5, and 6. And if that doesn't make any sense to you, I'm going to quickly explain what that means. So when you're in a scale, right, the first note, the root note, in this case it's F, is 1, right, because it's the first note in the scale. It's where the scale gets its name from. So this is 1. And then when you count up, you get your 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then back up to 8, which is just starts the whole thing over again. A lot of common chord progressions in like all sort of rap genres, I would say, is 1, 4, 5, and 6. So 1, 4, so going from like F minor to B minor, you see that sounds pretty cool. And then going from F minor to C minor, so that's going to be your 1, 5, and you notice that that sounds clean as well. And then when you go from your F to your C sharp, which is going to be your 1 to 6, and those all sound pretty clean. So those are what I'm going to be using to make this progression here: 1, 4, 5, and 6. And the way you find those is just by counting up. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That's your 4, 5, and 6. So remember those. I like to use those for all sorts of melodies, like drill melodies, other trap melodies, even some R&B melodies if I'm making those. So you can, use those sort of chord progressions. Those are the most common ones, and that the ones that our ears are most used to, so they sound the best. That was grossly oversimplified, I know. So yeah, just remember 1, 4, 5, 6 basically. I'm gonna start out with 1, and I think I'm gonna go up to 4 at the end. So it's gonna be B flat, and I'm gonna go up to the 6th. 6 up here. I should really bring the snaps down here, and I'm gonna go back down to the 5 here. So we got something that sounds like this. Alright, so we got our bass notes in. Let's come up with the top melody here. I'm also going to start the top melody on F because it's the root note. It's like the note the scale's named after and stuff, so it's gonna sound the most, normal. I'm going to make a 2-bar phrase like the melody in Back in Blood. But if you want to go for a different vibe, you can obviously do something different. I'm trying to keep it simple, concise, and, have a decently sized tutorial here in lengthwise. So let's start working. Remember, we're going to use all the notes that are highlighted here with the ghost notes, and that way we don't move out of the key. Alright, so we got our phrase here. It sounded pretty good. It's going to sound better once we put effects and do some more stuff to it, but this is sort of the groundwork for what we got right here. So it sounds pretty dark, pretty Pooh Shiesty like. And next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna first take the bass notes, I'm gonna turn the velocity down just a little bit. And the shortcut for doing all the notes at the same time, like you can obviously go and scroll all those down, but you know, that's like a lot of effort to get them all to be the same, you know, velocity if you want that. I'm going to show you guys a shortcut. You hold Alt on the keyboard and then you scroll down or up if you want to go up with your middle mouse button. And I think you can, yeah, you can do it on a trackpad if you're working on a laptop, but it's really finicky. You see, I just accidentally clicked the note while trying to do it, but I recommend doing it with a mouse. And yeah, you can select the whole melody and do it. It really depends. Next thing I'm going to do to make the melody sound a little more interesting is I'm going to come up to the wrench here. I'm going to go down to randomize, and you'll see that I have velocity turned up here. You can really make it random, like as random as you want. But I'm going to sort of bring it up just a little bit so we get a little bit of variation so it doesn't sound as robotic as, you know, the notes that we just clicked in. And full disclaimer, when I'm making most of my melodies, I'm playing stuff in with a MIDI keyboard, so it's going to give it a lot more variation and sound a lot more natural. But for the sake of this tutorial, I know not everyone knows how to play piano at like a level where you can actually play in melodies and whatnot, so I just wanted to click it in so make it accessible for everyone. That little piano tangent aside, I'm going to next move on to the next step, which is copy and pasting these melodies into the second instance of Keyscape. I told you guys I was going to use this, and this instance of Keyscape is really dope. It's called Dark Score, and it sounds like this. Like, doesn't it sound super sick? So that layered with the bass notes that we already got is going to sound like a lot more dark here. So let me play it real quick. Never mind, I got to pitch that up. Now let's play it. Doesn't that sound sick? I personally think it does, but yeah, that's a tip that you can do. Layer your bass notes with, you know, it doesn't even need to be a different piano. It could be like a synth or like a bass or like strings or something. It just makes it sound darker and gives it a lot more life. Alright, so now that I'm done with the melody, I'm going to go over and get rid of these ghost notes, and let's move on to the effects. So I got everything routed over here, the piano and the piano bass, and I'm going to start with the piano first. First things first, we're going to add an EQ in, parametric EQ, and you'll see that I'm reducing the number, the bottom number here, for the this band or one or whatever the hell you want to call it. I'm not super good at terminology when it comes to EQ, but I'm reducing the number by scrolling down with the middle mouse button, and I'm going to sort of make a high pass filter. It's called high pass because you're cutting out the lower frequencies and letting the high ones pass, and I'm going to cut out a lot of the sub frequencies. That way we give the 808 some room to work. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up Isotope Vinyl. It's a free plugin. I know I've showcased it before on the channel, and I know there's a new update for it, and I still haven't got it. You know, I'm happy with the old one. Normally this plugin's used for lo-fi and stuff because it's got all like the lo-fi, like the wear and the dust and the stuff, but I'm just going to be using it for some warp, just a little bit of warp. It makes the piano sound older, more evil a little bit. You know, just very slight touch to it. The final thing I'm going to be adding is this reverb plugin called ROM. It's from Native Instruments, and it's actually free to download. And it's a really cool reverb plugin. I personally think it's better than the stock ones. And I'm just going to keep it on the default reverb. There's like a ton of different presets and stuff. So I'm going to keep it on the normal one. Apologies if you guys can hear the traffic outside. They're going crazy. It's Philadelphia, man. I'm going to keep the reverb at around like 11%. And I'm going to bring the high and low cut, this one up and this one down, I guess technically a little bit, so that way that we don't have any like crazy high or low frequencies in the reverb. And here's what it sounds like with the reverb. That reverb sounds so cool. It makes it sound like kind of suspenseful in a way. I don't know, I really love it. So now I'm going to move on to the piano bass here, and I'm going to turn that down to start, and I'm also gonna do a sort of high pass frequency, but note that I am leaving some more of these lower frequencies in because it is like a piano bass sort of thing. You know, I could probably mix this better if I do like drums with it. If I had an 808 in it, I would, you know, be able to work around it and maybe even sidechain it, the 808 to it. I don't know. I'll get into a drum tutorial and a separate one. You know, I'm really trying to focus on the melodies in this tutorial. But if you guys want to see like a Pooh Shiesty, Lil Durk, dark drum beat tutorial thing, let me know in the comments. And if this video gets to 50 likes, I will drop a follow-up to this using this melody, and I'll make a beat and add the drums and 808 and stuff, and I'll display everything I was just talking about here. But yeah, that tangent done. I'm gonna also cut out some of the higher frequencies so that way it just stays sort of as a bass, piano bass. And I'm just gonna route it to the to track 1, so we have all the effects that we already got plus this special EQ. So if you mute the other piano, you'll notice it has the vinyl and the reverb on it that we put on the first piano. That's because we're routing it through the same thing. So yeah, that is making a dark piano melody like Pooh Shiesty and Lil Durk. And I'm gonna play the final melody one time before I end the video. Yeah, so that's it for the video, guys. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys later.